Well, from the moment he ran for mayor of Toronto, Rob Ford has been a polarizing figure, to say the least. And since taking office, there's been one controversy after another. Now, a conflict of interest lawsuit could actually result in him losing his job. To explain what's going on, we're joined by Jeff Ansell. He's a media and crisis communications expert and author of When the Headline Is You. All right, let me ask you this. Is this something that Mayor Ford could have done to prevent himself?
Well, perhaps, Jennifer, he could have not accepted the money in the first place. Once it was determined that it was inappropriate to accept the money, he could have tried returning it. And, of course, he could have recused himself from that vote that's now at the center of all of this. But, you know, ignorance of the law is never an excuse, Jennifer, but he could have helped his cause maybe by making this more about the kids and then pled his ignorance.
Let's just give a little backstory, Jeff, for people who don't know what the mayor is actually accused of here. Can you give us some detail on that?
Well, I'm not certain of all the legal aspects, but from what I can understand, his problem was that he voted with council on a vote where he basically let himself off the hook. And apparently, and again, I'm not the expert, apparently that was a violation of conflict of interest guidelines, and I think that's what this case is all about.
Right, and he did, in his defense during the depositions, say that he didn't really recognize, not necessarily the seriousness of it, but he wasn't aware that he was in conflict at that time. But let's talk about if he does lose his job over this. How unprecedented is that?
Well, from my understanding, there has been a situation, I believe it was in a community called Alma in New Brunswick, I think it was 2004, where the mayor lost his job because he violated the Municipal Act by taking a vacation longer than he was allowed to. He actually lost his job because of that. Interesting.
This seems a tad more serious, but there are some who say this is merely a frivolous lawsuit brought on by a disgruntled citizen who wants to see Mayor Ford lose his job. What's your take on that?
I think this is an opportunity for the mayor's critics to jump on the bandwagon against him. Jennifer, I don't think people on the street care about this very much. I think also the mayor should be perhaps talking even more about these kids he's helping, because whether you like him or not, he does a lot of valuable things for members of the community, for those in need, and his football leagues that he works with, they certainly are a cause to be celebrated. I think perhaps that ought to be played up a little bit more.
Well, as a crisis communications expert, that's what we wanted to talk to you about, because this particular mayor of this major Canadian city seems to have a lot of trouble with the press, with critics, with his image. At the end of the day, should all that matter if he's doing the job? And if it does matter, what tips would you give him?
Well, he has accomplished a great many things as mayor. Mayor Ford is very rough around the edges, and a lot of people like that style because what you see is what you get. You know, he's a lot like Boris Johnson, the mayor of London in England. He is seen by many as a buffoon, but he's very, very popular. I think what he has to do, among other things, is first of all, make peace with the Toronto Star. It's never good to go to war with people who buy ink by the barrel. I think he can also demonstrate a greater level of respect for protocols and guidelines. And above all, he should get a driver before he kills somebody.
Well, and those are the types of incidents that have caused him so much trouble. It's good to hear your perspective. I wish we had a little more time, but thank you for your perspective on this, Jeff. Jeff Ansell, joining us, a crisis communications expert, talking about Toronto's Mayor Rob Ford.